So at that point, I knew that that was a dead end for me in banking. Today, I want to spill the beans on why a career in banking wasn't the right thing for me. And although I'll be talking mostly based on my experience in banking, most of the things that I'll be talking about are pretty general. So I think that these will likely be useful to any one of you out there who are currently having any doubts about your current career. So stick with me to the end because each of these 12 reasons will bring you one step closer to answering your question of whether or not your current career in banking or whatever career you're in right now is right for you or not. By the way, here's a question for you. What brought you to this video and what are the challenges that you are facing at this moment? I'd really love to know, so please let me know in the comments below. So let's start. Here are 12 reasons why a career in banking wasn't the right thing for me. Reason number one was simply a lack of interest. I lacked interest in the products and services that I was working with and which revenue I was supposed to maximize. And as much as I tried to get myself interested in wealth management products and portfolio management, it just didn't work. And it wasn't the case that I had zero interest in finances. I mean, up until now, I am really interested in personal finance, in budgeting, in financial freedom. I am interested in finance to the degree that it allows me to do the other things that I'm really interested in and not for its own sake. I just wasn't really interested in growing rich people's portfolios and growing the bank's bottom line. It's really important to note here that I'm not making any value judgment about jobs and finances because while I personally lacked interest, I know that there are tons of people out there who are really passionate about financial products. The thing is that you just gotta know and you gotta be brutally honest to yourself if this is for you or not. So in my case, not being sufficiently interested was a big problem because of this next reason. Reason number two is that at that time, I was at a stage in my career and in a particular role that required me to be obsessed about banking products. And this is what I mean. At that point in time, I was in middle upper management and I was in a role of strategic business management. So the heart of this role required me to be obsessed about banking products, wanting to grow the business and so on. And I wasn't exactly in that place. I was doing a very good job and my performance reviews and everything reflected that, but I knew that I wasn't doing my best because of that lack of interest. And because of that, I kind of felt a lack of integrity within myself. Had I continued to kind of hoard that position, I would have taken that opportunity away from someone else who might have really wanted to be in that role. Before I continue to reason number three, if you found this video useful so far, then you might want to subscribe. Every week, I publish videos on how to build the best possible career for yourself, one in which you can thrive and perhaps even be happy instead of just existing. And if you do, make sure that you go down to the notification settings and make sure that it's set to all notifications so that you won't miss a single video from me. Let's move on to reason number three. Reason number three is red tape, which is common in big corporations. I could do an hour-long video or even longer on this, but I just want to keep this short. At that time, I was working for one of the largest multinational banks, one of the top 10, if not top 5. I was responsible for launching and implementing national and even regional projects. But before I could get anything done and before I could even start my work, I first had to get approvals from 10 different departments and layers of management. And I'm not saying at all that this is not necessary. On the contrary, because financial institutions are exposed to so much risk, it totally makes sense that there are these rules and checks and balances in place. But the problem was that the processes were just not efficient. In fact, they were very inefficient and they took ages. So it got really hard to get anything done productively. So oftentimes I ran out of steam even before I started. And sorry, I just didn't have the right kind of patience. Reason number 4 has a lot to do with personality. Reason number 4 was that banking didn't provide the right working environment and working context for me. In my management role on a daily basis, I would work with 20 people or more, and I would have an insane amount of meetings. Every day, I would say that I would spend more than 70% of my time interacting with other people. And on top of that, because the turnover rate in banking in general is quite high, almost every day I would meet new people and would have to get myself used to working with new people. And for some people, this is just exciting and this is just perfect. And I'm talking to you, extroverts. But for people who are more on the introverted side, this can become just too much. Working context or working environment is something that is so underestimated when it comes to making a career choice. Knowing your career type is so important to find out what career suits you best. So if you want to find out more about this and you want to find out specifically what your career type is, then later on you might want to check out this video up here which I made to find out what your career type is. Let's move on to reason number 5. The working culture that I experienced in banking was that more is better. And by more, I mean more hours, which meant that if I finished my work quickly and efficiently, that only meant that more and more work would be queuing up. Being the last one to leave the office was still something that was looked upon with admiration. You're a hard worker, or just stupid like I was. But because I was still pursuing a career in banking and I wanted up, at least I thought that that was what I was supposed to want, although I was starting to seriously doubt it. I quickly went on to working 50 hours per week. And there was never any space or any pause in between projects where I could just take a rest and reflect on what I was really doing. Reason number 6 is something that you might be familiar with, and please let me know in the comments if you can relate to this. Reason number 6 is that I didn't have the right kind of motivation. And this is what I mean. I was motivated to work, but only because of a sense of responsibility. Because it was my job, because I got paid, and because I didn't want to disappoint my boss. And that is what kept me running. But there was no intrinsic motivation, by which I mean motivation from the inside. There was nothing really motivating me to keep on learning about banking and making real progress. And it wasn't the case that I didn't have motivation for anything in my life. Because if that's the case, if you don't have motivation for anything whatsoever, then you have a general problem. But in my case, there were a lot of things that I was motivated to do, but none of those were related to banking products. What about extrinsic motivation? The thing was that money, a salary raise, a promotion didn't really motivate me anymore at that point. And this was the sad truth. I realized at one point that I didn't want to ever have my boss's job or even my boss's peer's job. On the contrary, I shied away from it. You could even say that I kind of sabotaged myself. Although I had so many chances to shine and promote myself. In my job, I was constantly exposed to senior management, to department heads, but I just wasn't interested to find out more. I noticed that even though there were so many opportunities and there were possibilities to explore my career path in banking further, I just kept a distance. And I want to add here that it wasn't just me. I saw this happening to many very intelligent and very high-performing individuals, many of them women. So much for the glass ceiling. The truth is that many women, including myself, consciously didn't want to move up. And of course here, I don't want to generalize. There are many people, women or men, who do have the ambition to move up, to climb up the corporate ladder. But at the same time, I also realized that this was not everybody's dream. The next reason is a bit funny and a bit embarrassing. Reason number 8 was that I couldn't succinctly explain to my family and friends what I was actually doing in banking. I mean, it's not that I myself didn't know what I was doing, but the thing was that I found it so hard to explain in simple words to other people that I was starting to doubt whether or not what I was doing had any meaning or purpose. You see, if you're having a hard time telling other people about your job or about what you're doing in your job, then it might be a sign that you're not quite happy with it. So now you might be wondering whether or not I was already aware of all these things from the get-go. And the answer is no, not at all. In fact, I only became aware of many of these things in hindsight long after I already left the bank. And I hope that by sharing these reasons why banking wasn't the right thing for me, it might help you to clarify for yourself whether or not a career in banking is for you or not. And even if you're not working in banking or in finances, this might still be applicable for you, because if you go through these reasons and ask yourself if this applies to you, you might also get an answer to your question whether or not any career you're in right now is suited for you or not. Let's move on to reason number 9 and 10, which are related to money. Reason number 9 was lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is a rise in living or lifestyle costs that usually go hand in hand with a salary increase. So although you start earning more, at the same time, you're also spending more. And the reason is usually because you're in this working environment where you're constantly trying to adjust to other people, to other people's lifestyle, or just because you can't afford it. So my income working in banking increased, but so did my expenses. And to save time, at that time I was working in banking and my office was located at Orchard Road in Singapore. I had to live in a place that was really close to the city center, which of course meant a higher rent. I'm sure you know about that. Then my friends who were also working in banking also made a lot of money, and along with that came expensive habits and expensive lifestyle to keep up with. Weekend trips and getaways, expensive dining, and so on. Reason number 10 is that my relative income shrunk. Absolute versus relative income, this is a concept that is so important for you to understand. So what happened was that my absolute income, or the absolute amount of money that I earned each year from my banking job, increased. But at the same time, the number of hours that I worked and the energy that I used for my banking job also went up over proportionally. So in the end, what happened was that while my absolute income increased, my relative income decreased. If you want to find out more about this concept of absolute versus relative income, then you might want to check out my other video, which I'll link up here later. Now let's get to the 2 last reasons why banking wasn't the right career for me. Reason number 11 was that I experienced a prolonged burnout. I was tired all of the time and I started getting these health problems such as reoccurring sinus infections. It was really bad. And by the way, I made this whole case about burnout and whether or not it will just go away by itself, in case you want to find out more. So burnout is a clear red flag that something about your career or your life in general is not right. And in my case, burnout was a symptom of all the things that didn't gel between banking and me. I just refused to acknowledge it in the beginning, so it kept on dragging and dragging. But ironically, in an interesting twist, burnout actually saved me from staying put in a career that I didn't like. Reason number 12 is that I had no outlook. I had no vision for my career. I couldn't see beyond the next project or the next paycheck. I didn't know where I wanted to go next in my banking career, and neither did I care, to be honest. And I knew that my problem wasn't with the specific bank that I was working for, because at that time I wasn't interested in working for any other banks or financial institutions either. I had zero interest in exploring other companies. So at that point, I knew that that was a dead end for me in banking. I hope that these 12 reasons could help you to figure out for yourself whether or not your career at the moment is right for you or not. If you want to support this channel, you can do that by giving this video a thumbs up, or you can also support me by buying me a coffee through the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.